Good morning. Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment to get nice and comfortable, sitting on a cushion or a blanket, letting your spine elongate nice and tall, back of your neck is nice and long, opening up your chest and opening up your diaphragm and opening up your heart. You would gently close your eyes and soften your thoughts. Soften your shoulders. Soften your eyes. And soften your heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle, breathing life into you with each inhale, and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes now. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or phrase to have with you on your mat and perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention is to continue celebrating National Yoga Awareness Month by trying different styles of Hatha yoga. So this morning we're going to work with the Iyengar Yoga. And Iyengar Yoga was created by B.K.S. Iyengar, who lived from 1918 and passed away at the age of 95 in 2014. And he was considered one of the foremost gurus of the modern time, helping introduce yoga to the Western world. Iyengar Yoga emphasizes the cultivation of self-knowledge primarily through asanas and pranayama. The asanas focus on postural alignments, with each student finding their own level in each pose by recognizing that all bodies are unique and have different strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to repeat that phrase because that's really important. The asanas focus on postural alignments, with each student finding their own level in each pose by recognizing that all bodies are unique and have different strengths and weaknesses. Iyengar Yoga advocates the use of props to help students gain correct alignment suitable for their body. This is a quote from him: "To make the pose serve you instead of the other way around. It's about quality of movement rather than quantity." A prop will not diminish the experience, but can enhance and advance the yoga practice. Beginner and experienced yogis use props to improve the effectiveness of a pose. Iyengar studios have equipment beyond blocks, straps, bolsters, and blankets. And they're easily recognizable when you walk into one. We have one I've not visited, but it's in Burlington. And there's all sorts of equipment and props attached to the walls, different contraptions on the floor, all sorts of things to help the student gain the correct alignment for themselves. Iyengar instructors go through extensive training, learning how to assist students in finding their level in each pose. Iyengar instructors actually go through a 3+ year instruction. I have 200 hours, not even close to that 3 years. So they go through 3 years and then they get into an apprenticeship. It's very extensive. And poses are, the Iyengar style, the poses are held relatively long, allowing muscles to relax and lengthen. And there's a special focus on standing poses and inversions. So actually working on this yesterday, I was thinking, it's like, I've never been to one of these. That's going to be my mission this month in celebrating National Yoga Awareness Month. I'm going to go to a Iyengar studio, probably Burlington one, and see what that's all about. And if anybody, because we do focus so specifically on fitting the pose to you. If anyone feels uncomfortable in poses, I would encourage you to go and check that out, and it might give you some wonderful tips to further your practice. So let's begin. So when I was taking yoga lessons, my instructor, and it wasn't beginner level, it was she taught vinyasa style, and you would walk into her studio and she would always have her mat in the front, and she would have the props that we would be using for that day's class. There would always be props, blanket, oftentimes a belt, most often a block. So we would always have to look to her mat to see what we would get off the shelves for that day. So we typically don't use props, but I encourage you to have them ready for you in the event that something today maybe clicks, like, oh, I should be using that all the time, because that really makes that pose feel much better for me. So I encourage you to do that. The towel blocks, if you don't have a block, I recommend you buying, they're not that expensive. You can use a book. Instead, belts or straps, there's actual yoga straps. I use an old dog's leash, my Comet's leash. The blankets, my favorite beach towel with sunshine on it, which we need today because it's yet another rainy day in the month. So for today, I'm going to have the towel kind of laid out the long way, because I'm going to use it in a different, well, different ways. So I'm going to fold it up that way. So if you don't have a beach towel, you know, bath towels, blankets, pillows, that type of thing, kind of cushion you. And then other props, we used in chair yoga last week, we used a chair. A wall is a wonderful prop. In fact, there's a lot of classes that are based on using the wall throughout the class, like how we used the chair throughout the class last week. Counters in my kitchen, there's several poses that I like using the counter for, because it has a rug right there. So be creative with your prop usage. I'm going to start by putting the blanket under me, and you probably already are on a cushion of some sort. The idea of raising your hips up is to have your knee in line with your groin, where your crease is right here. So it's in line or lower. So some of you, I mean, I can flatten out my knees. Of the three things of yoga, flexibility, balance, and strength, flexibility is my strength. And we've talked, that introduction talked about recognizing strengths and weaknesses. Strength for me is flexibility. My strength is, my strength is getting stronger. And balance has always been my weakness. And that's getting much better as I continue to practice yoga. But to recognize that and maybe use props to support those areas that are more weak for me is great. So flexibility might be a weakness for you. So having a blanket might not be high enough. Having a block supporting you, bringing your legs in a cross position, have that knee equal to the crease where your groin is, or slightly lower. That works as well. So let us begin. I'm going to start with a little bit of pranayama and just bringing the Ujjayi breath, that soundtrack for your yoga practice, into play here. And we're going to have the Deirdre breath, which is from your tummy. It's a 3-part breath, tummy to ribs to chest, and then back again. So incorporating those both. And we'll just take a few moments here to really focus on our breath. Iyengar was a big advocate of breath work. He wrote a book, Light on Pranayama. He also wrote a book called Light on Yoga, which is a very popular book. I don't think the Light on Pranayama is as popular. But let's just take a few moments to really bring life into us by inhaling and relaxing by exhaling. Okay, come back to your natural breath, and then we'll just start with a few sun breaths again on this overcast, foggy, rainy day. So inhaling, lifting our hands up, and then exhaling, bringing them back down. Inhale up, and exhale down. And then inhale up, and when we bring them up to the top, let's twist to the left and bring our right hand down to our left knee and our left fingertips behind our hips. Nice gentle twist, and then inhale, come back up, and then twist over to the right. Take an inhale or two, or a breath or two. And then come back to center. We'll bring our hands to our heart center in Anjali Mudra. And then we're going to interlace our fingers. And just do that in your natural way that you interlace your fingers. And then we're going to push our palms out away from us and lift our interlaced fingers overhead. and then come down, and then bring them back to Anjali Mudra. We'll do that 2 more times. Interlace our fingers, extend the palms away from us, lifting our hands up overhead, and then coming back down to shoulder height, and then back to Anjali Mudra. And one last time, interlace, pushing our palms out away from us, lifting our hands overhead, exhaling, bringing them back down, and then bringing them back to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Now, whatever way you have your legs crossed, uncross them and go the other way. So if you had your right leg out in front, uncross it and put your left leg out. And see if that sitting position still works for you on whatever you're sitting on. You might want to change it up to, if you're on a blanket, to a cushion or to a block, or vice versa. Just have that where your knees are, where your groin is, or a little lower. Then we'll bring our hands back to Anjali Mudra. And then we're gonna make our fingers, instead of interlacing our hands the way that we did before, we're gonna shift them 1 degree up or back so that they're just in a different spot. Our thumb that was on the outer edge is now on the inside. It's just a little different than what we experienced before. And then we're going to push our palms away from us, then lifting our hands up overhead, and then bringing them back down to shoulder height, and then back to Anjali Mudra. Okay, we're going to interlace that alternate style again. Pushing our palms out away from us, lifting our hands up overhead, and then bringing them back down on the exhale, and then back to Anjali Mudra. And one last time, pushing the hands out, lifting your hands up overhead, and then exhale, bringing them back down, and then bringing them back to heart center. We're going to place our right hand on our left knee rather, and our left hand on our right knee, crossing our arms. And then we're going to bring the backs of our hands together. And if you can, bring the palms or the fingertips to the palm, you could do that. Keeping the hands back to back is fine as well. Lifting the elbows up to the shoulder, and then exhale, bringing them back down. Inhale, lifting them up to the shoulder. Exhale, bringing them back down. And one more time, lifting them back up to the shoulders, elbows to the shoulders, and then back down. And then release. Put our left hand on our right knee and our right hand over on our left knee, and then bring the backs of our palms together in the opposite direction. Then we just work backs of hands together or palms together, either one. Inhale, lifting the elbows up to the shoulders, and exhale, bringing them back down. Inhale, lifting them back up to the shoulders. Exhale, back down. And one last time, inhale back up to the shoulders, and exhale back down. And for this next thing, I'm going to use my strap. I'm going to come down off the block. So I'm going to twirl around. And this is called cow face arms. And this is to demonstrate how a prop can help with the uniqueness of each of our bodies. So I'm going to turn my back to you. And to do cow face hands, you would raise your right arm up and then bend your elbow so that your hand comes on your back. And then you're going to take your other arm and bring it in back and try to touch the fingers. Well, on this side, I'm great at that. I have flexibility on that side. So using the strap, you would take the strap in the arm, you raise up to the top, and then you bring it to your back, and then you find the strap with your other hand. You know, your hand may be down here, or you can actually climb up the strap to the point where you reach your fingertips, if you can go that far. So let's just try it again. So I'm going to raise my arm up and then bring my hand to the middle of my back, bring my left arm around, and just kind of crawl up that strap. Anyone ever has had a frozen shoulder? This is this is very reminiscent of the exercises that the physical therapist put us through. It's a little pulley on the door, and you're like here's the pulley, and you'd be bringing your shoulder up, trying to break up that frozenness. So let's try that on the other side, and you'll see how unique I am. Now, lift my left arm up, bring it to the back, and then swing my right arm up, and I don't even come close to that. So I'm going to work with my strap, put my strap in my left hand, raise it up overhead, bring it to the middle of my back, and then find the strap with my right hand and just kind of crawl up it. See if I can get to my fingers. You know, that's probably as far as it goes. But you can, like the physical therapist would have you do, kind of try to adjust that strap, maybe pull it up with your left arm, tucking your right arm under. So let's try that one more time. Left arm goes up with the strap in hand, goes to the middle of the back. I reach around, I find the strap with my right arm, and I try to crawl up that strap, reach my fingertips. Alrighty. So let's now, make sure I got all my things done. Yeah. So let's roll down on our back, bring our knees to our chest. So you can roll down any way that's comfortable for you, knees bent, knees down, flat, or hands tucked under, and do the express roll. I'm going to try with my knees up this morning. And then I'm going to bring my knees to the chest and give a nice hug, give my lower back a nice gentle rub. And then taking the strap, and we've done this many times without the strap. You can, if you have the strap, this is a great way of introducing yourself, maybe furthering your practice. I'm going to say that term a lot today, but I know when I do this without the strap, I only get so far in this pose. So again, furthering the practice, this might help me to get that stretch and that mobility and flexibility that I'm striving for. So I'm going to put the strap on the balls of my feet and then push the feet up. And then I'm going to take one foot out. I'm going to keep my right foot in the strap, take the left foot out, bringing it all the way down. I'll have the strap around my right ball of my foot, and I'm going to take that strap, I'm going to hold on to it up close to the ankle or as high up as it's comfortable, and put my other arm down on the ground, on the mat for an anchor. And then I'm going to take that, and it's okay to have a bend in your knee. Straight knees, you can do it, but a bend's a little bit more comfortable and fully accepted. So I'm going to take that and go to the 1 o'clock, the 2 o'clock, and the 3 o'clock position. And that strap just helps to support that. And I think I get down quite a bit closer to the mat, to the floor, than I'm able to do without it. So we can see that actually. Once you're at your 3 o'clock position, you can slowly bring it back up. And then what we typically don't do is take this right foot and bring it over to the left. And I get to about 10 o'clock on that side. And then we'll bring it back up. So I'll put my left foot back in there. Straighten out everything, get the strap on the ball of my foot, and then release my right leg and bring that down to the mat. Bring my hands around the strap closer to the ankle. And actually I should switch hands. I should have the right hand on the left leg. And then I'll have my left arm as my support. We're going to bring that leg out 10 to 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and maybe not 9 o'clock, but scooch over. There we go. And then bring it back up. And then we're going to bring it over to the right. And then bring it back up. So we release our foot from the strap. And let's just try it without the strap. So we're going to bring our feet up to the sky. Send the left foot down. And then bring the right foot over to the right. And then bring it over to the left. And then bring it back up again. Raise both feet up to the sky. Drop our right leg down to the mat. Bring the left foot over to the left, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, down to the 9 o'clock. And then back up again. And then over to the right. And back up again. And bring both legs down. Now, if you notice any difference between the two, if you're able to go a little further with a prop, or maybe you were already there. The next thing we're going to do is take our strap and have our feet on the mat about hip width apart. I'm going to wrap the strap around my upper thighs and tie a square knot. So that's tying it one way and then just making another knot on top of that in the other direction. Square knot. So my legs are about hip width apart. And then we're gonna do some windshield wipers. And these, if you usually, when we do the windshield wipers, it's trying to keep our lower back on the mat and bring our legs, swishing them back and forth. So with the strap, see if that makes a difference for you in your ability to do that with ease. So let's drop to the right and then bring back up, a nice swishing motion to the left, and then back up, swishing motion to the right, back up, swishing to the left, back up, over to the right, back up, and to the left, back up, and one last time to the right, back up, and lowering to the left, back up. We remove the strap from your legs, and you roll over to your favorite side and come back up to a seated position. We're going to come into cat-cow. So with this, if you have any wrist issues, I'm going to take my blanket and I roll it up to like a sausage shape and place that on your mat. And this, there's actually blocks you can buy that if you have wrist issues, yogas, that you can, it helps you to slant your arms, take the pressure off your wrist. But you can do that with a towel or a blanket. So we'll try some cat-cows using that on our wrist to soften our the pressure on our wrist. So our hips, hands are, fingertips are still spread apart, with the fingertips touching on the mat. Shoulders and wrists are in line. Knees and hips are in line. Navel's tucked to the spine. We're going to round our back, dropping our head down for cat. And then we're going to raise our head up. Tailbone comes up for cow. Exhale, rounding our back, dropping our head and tailbone down for cat. Then inhale, raising our head and tailbone up for cow. And then just continue at your own pace. Nice, even movements. Synchronizing your breath with your movement. And we'll do a few more and come back to a neutral spot. And coming back to tabletop, we bring our knees together and to do our bird dog. So we're going to lift our left leg up, so that's hip height, and then lift our left arm up, sending our gaze straight down. We're going to point our toe on the inhale and then flex on the exhale. So point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, and flex, exhale, and bring them both down. And we'll do that on the other side. So lifting our left leg up, we're going to point, have our weight evenly distributed in our hands on that towel, and then lift our right hand up, point, inhale, flex, exhale. 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 Point, inhale, flex, exhale, and bring everything back down. Then we'll go into child's pose. You bring your knees out to the edges. Big toes come together. And you can bring your head down. And having this towel here is kind of nice. You need to put towel on under your forehead. Or if you want a little cushion, you can actually bring it around, bringing it between your heels and your hips, supporting you in that pose so their back's a little bit straighter. And then we'll come back up. Bring our knees back together, back to tabletop, tucking our toes under. We're gonna walk our hands back. And some people actually prefer to have a squat position where their heels are supported by blankets, so you can do that. And then pushing down, lifting up into mountain pose. So for mountain pose, we'll go through the essentials of good posture, which is mountain pose. Legs are about hip width apart. Toes are pointing to the straight edge of the mat. We're going to lift our toes up off the mat and then set them down, lifting our heels up off the mat and then bringing them down, just really feeling that connection. And with Iyengar, they always encourage you to go back to mountain pose to check on your alignment. Again, Iyengar focuses a lot on standing poses and inversions. So they come back to mountain pose a lot. So it's kind of good to kind of go through each of the steps of mountain pose. Your legs are nice and strong, gentle bend in the knees, navel's tucked to the spine, shoulders are relaxed and rolled back. Crown of your head is reaching up toward the sky. And on this point, a good check for your mountain pose, I think Judith Lassiter, one of the US's gurus, yogi gurus, talks about mountain pose and just posture in general, is that if you can go to a door jamb, the corner of the door jamb, and back up to it, and your sacrum, the back of your hip bones there, should connect with it. Your back of your shoulders should connect with it. You should have that space between. So when I say tuck your navel to your spine, I'm not trying to get you to have your navel straight and kind of like this, you know. It's just don't slouch like that, basically, is what I'm suggesting with tucking your navel to your spine. So it supports your lower back. So again, the touch points, your heel would be a touch point, your sacrum, back of your hips, back of your shoulders, the back of your head, and the crown of your head is straight, reaching up to the sky. So that's a good way of checking on your posture, your alignment for mountain pose. So with that said, let's sweep our hands up overhead. Nice big inhale and nice big exhale, bringing our hands down. I always encourage you to bend your knees to support your lower back for a forward fold. And then we straighten up our knees and place our hands at our on our shins to really flatten out that back for half forward fold. And then sending the crown of our head down to the mat and just letting gravity take over here. And then sweeping our hands all the way up. And I'm going to do that again. And if you would bring your block close by, we'll do that with a block. So we're going to sweep our hands down, keeping our legs with just the soft bend, and bringing our hands to the block. Now, my uniqueness is in that I have short arms and short legs, but particularly short arms. So having a block here is really, if I'm going to do a forward fold without bending my knees, say if I had something going on with my knee and I can't bend it, but I still want the benefits of forward fold, the stretch, the inversion, I could bring my block into play. So this would be the forward fold, and then standing the block on upright would be half forward fold. My back lengthens. I get that nice same stretch that I do if I put my hands on my shins. And then again, back to forward fold. And then sweeping our hands all the way up. We're going to come up onto our tippy toes, interlace our fingers, and send the palms of our hands up to the sky. And just stretch here for a moment on our tippy toes. And then bring our heels back down, bring our arms back down, forward fold. Back down to the block. And then half forward fold. And then forward fold, crown of the head comes down. And then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together, palms come to heart center. And next pose is going to be chair pose. And I'm going to show you how I learned chair pose. And we often did it in class, even after I learned it this way. My instructor calls this the P.E.S dispenser pose. Because you put your block between your legs, like if you were going to squeeze your legs, you're going to send out a P.E.S candy from the back. So you put your P.E.S between your thighs and kind of hold that together with your thighs. And then for chair pose, you're going to keep that pressure on that block as you bend your hips down toward the floor, sending your arms upright. And then come back down. And this truly does set up the alignment really well for chair pose. So again, we're going to bring our hips down toward our ankles, sending our arms up and then back, keeping that pressure on the block. And then one more time, sending it down, keeping that pressure on the block. See how far down you can go. And then back up. And then you can send out your P.E.S candy. And then, oops, I want it back here for forward folds. Sweep our hands up. And they come down for a forward fold. Half forward fold. Nice straight back, flat back. And then exhale, forward fold. And then sweeping your hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together, palms come to heart center. And then the next pose is tree pose. And a lot of us learn tree pose by having and using your your mat as your prop here. Your toe on the mat, heel on your ankle, and then sliding it up to your shin. Well, this is something that where a block, again, my weakness in those 3 units of mobility is balance. So there's days where I'm really kind of not good. And to have that support, and it's supporting you in your practice. It's not supporting necessarily the pose. I mean, it's doing that too, but it's supporting you in your practice to have this or maybe the wall as a prop for me when I'm doing tree pose. And then you can come all the way up. It's just building upon building upon building. Getting that muscle memory working for you. And then let's release, and we'll do that on the other side. So then you can do the ankle heel, the sole to the shin or calf, inner calf, or to the block. And just get that feeling of balance, lifting your toe off the block. And an eagle pose is a really great one to use the block on because you have so much going on. We're not going to go into eagle pose today though. And then bringing it up to tree pose. And then bringing it back down. One last time, sweeping our hands up overhead, big inhale. And big exhale, bring your hands down to the block or bending your knees to the floor. Bringing the block up, coming into half forward fold. And then bringing the block back down, sending the crown of our head down. And then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together. Palms come to heart center. And palms come to the back of the hips. I've used the belt before in this, and I'm not convinced how supportive it is, but you can try it with it still with its knot on. I lace my hands through both sides, and I wrap my hands around my hips, around my hip bone here, and then with the bend back, having that strap right in the spot where that supports the bend. I know there's a lot of utility workers or people who do heavy lifting that wear those special belts all the way around their waistline, so that helps them supporting them when they're lifting. So that's what I'm trying to emulate here. Keeping our chin tucked toward our chest. And then coming back up. Alrighty. So let's go back to mountain pose. This is an Iyengar that, coming back to mountain pose, keeping your feet hip width apart, bringing your arms together, and then jumping. That seems to be an Iyengar move. I worry about it landing on your ankle in the wrong way, so not a fan of it, but bringing our hands out to the side, wide-legged stance. Our toes are pointing to the corners of the mat, heels are tucked in, and then we pivot our left foot and our right foot coming into warrior two. So we're going to bend the knee, left knee, so it's over the ankle. You can just see the toes, big toe of your left foot over the knee. Maybe using a block to line up your foot against the block, and then bringing because the ankle will touch the block if you're in a good alignment there. And then turning your head gently to look at your left fingertips. And then we're going to bring our forearm down to our thigh, lifting our right hand up to the sky. And then we're going to send our left hand to the block that's next to our foot. And then we'll come back up to warrior two. Just feel that alignment again. Gently turning our head to look at our left fingertips. And then we're going to straighten out our left leg, stretching our left hand rather, to as if we're about to grab something. We're going to come into triangle pose. And triangle pose, we often land on our leg and slide down our leg. But here's the block. And for my short arms, that works very, very well. When I first started doing triangle pose, I'd always get this kind of stitch in my side. That was a little bit of pain. I guess I've worked it enough so that it doesn't do that anymore, but a block would have been very handy to alleviate that. And then coming back up, we're going to pivot our feet, bring our hands down, coming into runner's lunge. We're going to take that block and put it down so that the fattest side is on the mat, about 3 or 4 inches away from the back of your heel. And then we're going to bring ourselves into plank pose. So our wrists are right below our shoulders. Heels are pushing out to the back. Keeping our elbows tucked, we're going to lower down onto the plank, onto this block. So if that's something that works a little bit better for you, and then cobra from here is a little bit gentler. And then with your feet top side down, you can push up and come up into up dog. And then bring your knees down to the mat, coming down into child's pose. And you can rest your head on the block. The child's pose kind of opens up that pose a little bit more air circulating. And then come back up to tabletop, tuck our toes under, coming into downward dog. Downward dog is an inversion where your heart's higher than your head. And Iyengar is a big fan of inversions. He's doing headstands well into his 80s. As is Sir Paul McCartney, by the way. Very impressed. But you do need to be careful with inversions. If you have high blood pressure, glaucoma, heart condition, just take it easy. But it is an excellent thing to do to kind of flush out your lymphatic system. So we'll walk our feet up to the block. Put our hands in the block for the forward fold. And then sweep our hands up overhead. And we'll do that on the other side. So I'm going to take that block out, come into mountain pose, and do the Iyengar style. Right. Come out. Toes are pointing to the corners of the mat. Heels are tucked in. And then I'm going to pivot my feet and do warrior two on the other side. And you want to scooch into that. Bringing the block to the side of my foot. Get my foot aligned properly, my knee over the ankle. so I can just see my big toe. Gently turning my head to look at my right fingertips. I want to bring my right forearm down to my thigh, sweeping my left hand up to the sky. And then bringing the right hand down to the block. And then lifting back up to warrior two. And gently gazing at my right fingertips. I'm going to straighten out my right leg. And send my right fingertips forward, coming into triangle pose with my right hand coming down, landing on the block. And you can have it whatever height you want. This height, maybe the lower height, maybe the higher height, whatever's comfortable for you. Lifting that up. And then lift up to warrior two again. And then we'll pivot, bringing both hands down into runner's lunge, bringing the block largest side flat on the mat, about 3 to 4 inches behind your foot. Bringing that foot back so you come into plank pose. Shoulders right over your wrist. Heels pushing to the back. Navel tucked to the spine so you don't get a saggy tummy. And then lowering down to the block. Having that block hit right where it's comfortable. There. And then pushing up for cobra. Nice gentle cobra. And then pushing up for up dog. Extending your arms fully. And then coming, bringing your knees down. And then coming into child's pose. Placing your forehead on the block. And then come back up to tabletop. Tuck your toes under, come into downward dog. Pedal out here for a moment. I think this is a nice style of inversion. I'm hesitant about doing headstands and handstands, although I could use my wall easily for a prop for that. But I think this works fine. So I'm going to walk my feet up to the block. Bring my hands to the block for forward fold. And then sweep my hands up overhead. Palms come together. Palms come to heart center. And then I'm going to turn around, having my pinky toes out to the edges of the mat. Heels tucked in. Hands heart center. To lower my hips down toward the block. My arms and torso coming between my legs. And then I'm going to sit on the block. So this is a way of doing that wide-legged squat. You get that same hip opener. If you send your hands back down toward the mat with the Anjali Mudra, you feel that stretch on your inner thighs there. And then we're going to bring our feet back. So hero's pose typically is done with your seat on the mat. That, for me, puts way too much pressure on my knees. So hero's pose will always, for me, be on a block. And bringing my feet closer to the block. Modified camel's pose. This is a way of working into camel's pose if that pose has interest to you. You bring your tips of your fingers to the tips of your toes and lean back and then just arch your back. Not tipping your head all the way back. And then you can gradually build up by maybe using the block to support your effort in a higher level. sitting on the block, bringing your fingers to your heels and stretching, and then eventually lifting off the block, bringing your fingers to your heels. So it's a graduated type of thing. Again, it's furthering your practice. It's allowing you to get from point A in the pose to point B in a nice supported manner. So let's remove the block now, swing our legs to the side, come into a seated position. The strap, undo my knot, and with the strap, remember the early days of learning how to do half boat and boat. So now we're at a point where we just lift up our legs and we kind of do this because our core muscles have been built up so that we can do that. But starting out in half boat, I remember us putting the strap between below the balls of our feet and sliding our hands down the strap till it reaches our knees, and then bringing that up. So now, since the half boat, I think I got down, it's the full boat. So trying to build up the muscles and the strength to do a full boat, I still need the strap. So let's just do a few half boats, bringing our knees up and then dropping our toes, both of them. And then if you want, you could try to do the full boat. Still working on that. Toes up and both come down one at a time. Both, right, left, both, right, left, both. And then the last pose, one of my favorites, is using the prop of the blanket, rolling it up again in the sausage form, placing it on top of my feet, around my ankles, bringing the soles of my feet together, and tucking that blanket around the back to the heels. So it's wrapping the ankles and bringing the loose ends right in back of my heels. And then I come down gently into goddess pose. And there's just something about this pose, how my feet are nice all snug into this wrap that I just love. Take a few moments here. And you can use this for Shavasana. I would suggest maybe putting a couple of blocks if you're not using the blanket around your ankles. Use blocks of both knees to support them. And you can take a Shavasana, just kind of relaxing everything this way. So to end today's class, I'd like to read a quote from B.K.S. Iyengar. And the quote is, "It is through the alignment of the body that I discovered the alignment of my mind, self, and intelligence. It is through the alignment of my body that I discovered the alignment of my mind, self, and intelligence."